We've had 18 big inquiries and reviews into aged care in Australia since 1997. 18, that's almost one a year. So can someone explain to me why after all those reports, almost every year, all those promises from politicians when they get these results, oh, we'll do better, you know, that we still get the findings that we got today from the latest inquiry, the Royal Commission, that has examined aged care for nearly 2 years. It says, 1, at least 1 in 3 people in residential aged care or getting home care, they get substandard service. 2nd, 2 in 3 people in nursing homes are malnourished or at risk of malnutrition. Can you believe that? 3rd, up to 1 in 5 people in residential care have been assaulted. And there is too much use of physical and chemical restraints to keep them in bed or keep them quiet. It is a system, says the Royal Commission, besieged by neglect. I don't know if they exaggerate, but these are the people who've spent millions of our dollars looking into all this. And if only part of what they found is true, it makes me wonder, what have our politicians been doing? It does make me understand, though, why the Prime Minister's office today made sure that reporters did not have a chance to read this report and its findings before the Prime Minister had his press conference to discuss it.
You've given us half an hour's notice to attend a press conference. You tabled the report while we were here.
But Scott Morrison did promise to spend another $450 million on aged care, hire more staff, run more audits. And there could be much, much more spending to come, more borrowed money, of course. Because when it comes to aged care, when is enough good enough?
How much money is required, Prime Minister, and why only 1 volume released today? Aren't there 8?
There are 8. All 8 are being released. Of course we'd release all 8.
How much money is required?
The answer to that question is not known at this point, Andrew. And the Royal Commission doesn't know what the answer is yet. And what the Royal Commission has found is that is an assessment that has never been undertaken based on a needs-based model.
Joining me is Ian Henschke, Chief Advocate of National Seniors. Ian Henschke, thank you so much for your time. How did the system get this bad?
Well, Andrew, it's really interesting to go back and look forensically at what actually happened. And it seems to date back to 1997 when they brought in the new Aged Care Act. And that act seemed to take out of something that was there before. Now, before they were called nursing homes, after 1997 they were called aged care facilities. So you can see the word missing, nursing, it's disappearing. So that meant that you didn't actually have to have the medical staff there. You only had to provide what they called adequate care. Now, how you define adequate, of course, is very, very problematic. And so what people are saying now is that that was the problem right back in the beginning, the creation of that act. And it was interesting today that Greg Hunt said his first act in implementing the recommendations would be to tearing up the Aged Care Act, the old act, and creating a new one.
Yeah, look, I got that. I heard that, Ian, about, you know, we'll tear up the act, and then there were some of the other 148 recommendations that sort of made me think, where is this really going? Renaming the health department, well, whoopee-doo. Creating an aged care advisory council. We really have groups like your own out there trying to sound the alarm. And even more worrying for me, you know, these 2 commissioners couldn't even agree on the most important thing of all. One wanted to reform the current system of government oversight. The other one wanted to blow it up and give the job to an independent body. When I hear all that, Ian, I've got to say, I feel very pessimistic. I think, well, is this going to be one more inquiry, all talk, no action?
Well, I don't think we should feel pessimistic, Andrew, because you can fix things when they're broken, but you actually have to have the will, and you've got to also understand how the system works. And I've spent time talking to people that work inside the system, and you may have heard of a recent bill by Sterling Griff. Now, this bill that he wants to put forward is going to make the provider outline how much of the money that they get they actually spend on care. Now, wouldn't you think that's something you'd need to know? If the government gave $100 to an aged care provider, shouldn't he be able to detail how much of that money was spent on care? In other words, $85 went on care and X amount went on food or whatever. You've actually got to account for the money that you're given.
That's not bad.
And imagine if you just...
Well, give us three more of Ian Henschke's top tips, how to improve this system. I like what you just said. Give us 2 or 3 more.
You would set up a training facility in each state where you would actually train people and you would vet them when they came to apply for the job. I'll give you an example. I spoke to another person who works in this area and he said he recently did a pilot program with the South Australian government. He advertised for people to sign up for that program. 100 people signed up. He narrowed it down to 10 and he said of that 10, around 7 turned out to be suitable. So that gives you an idea of what we really need to do. You might find that only about 7 of 100 people that apply to work in aged care are suitable to work in aged care. Now, that shouldn't surprise you. The same thing would happen with the hotel industry. You imagine if you put an ad in the paper and said, wanted waiters to work in a restaurant. I mean, you might get 100 applications and you might only get 10 that were suitable and 7 of them would turn out to be any good.
Except, Ian, I think it's even worse than your analogy. You have to say, wanted people to wait on old people, plus wash their backsides, treat them this and that, and we'll pay you peanuts. And you just wonder why it is that so few Australians want to do that job that have got the requisite skills that you'd hope for.
Well, I mean, look, people have been doing this for years. The nursing profession, as you would know, and childcare, I mean, they have a lot of things in common as well. I mean, if you think about the fact that a few years ago we let anybody set up childcare. You remember they used to have 60 Minutes programs about people that were in there abusing people in childcare. It was a runaway industry, people doing the wrong thing. Then they started to say, hang on a minute, we might have to have people trained in this area because these are our children and they are valuable. Well, guess what? These are our old people and they are valuable. But the problem is Australians have had a problem with ageism. We haven't seen them as being valuable, and so we've actually been profiteering from their old age, and that is where you have a problem.
And of course, it all costs a mozza. No one wants to put their hands in their pockets, including, we have to say, some of the children of the said parents. So there you go. Well, Ian Henschke, look, but I'll just tell you quick, we'll be talking again a year from now.
Well, one quick thing, Andrew, before we go.
Yep.
All right, we surveyed our members. They said they're willing to pay more for the proper care, so people do want to pay more.
Well, let's see if they actually mean it. We all answer surveys like we think people who judge us nicely for it, but whether they actually do it, that's another question. But Ian, I take your note of optimism, but I suspect next year we'll be having a similar discussion. But let's see. Let me hope that your optimism is justified. Ian Henschke, thank you for your time.
Thank you.